Hello, everyone. So I'm very happy to be here with you. So let's start my presentation. So, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. Today we are going to learn together about SOQL queries. This is the presentation where you became all powerful in Salesforce. You are about to experience a huge power of Spike. So let's start and join me as we will discuss about if you can create reports, then you can write SOQL queries. But before we start, let's talk a little bit about my favorite topic, me, myself, and I. So, for people who don't know me, I'm Houssam Saoudy from Casablanca, Morocco. And when I was a child, I had a dream to be a teacher of French language. I was the student who always received the top grades in the class. And when I took my bachelor, my parents advised me to study economics. But I had another visions. I wanted to be a computer scientist because I didn't have a computer at home. It was not easy at first, but a few months I became the student who received the top grade in the class. After 2 years of studies, I took my first diploma as an IT developer, and I was only 20 years old. When I took my first diploma, I still had two choices: continue my studies or work in a company to earn money. Both were important to me. I thought about it during the holidays and I chose after to work, but also to continue my studies for 3 years in the evening and on weekends. It was the hardest 3 years of my life that I will never forget. I remember I started my work in the morning at 8 a.m. and I finished at 6 p.m. And I took transportation to go to school for studies. And you can imagine how hard it was for me. After 3 years, I finally finished my studies. Woohoo! When I finished my studies, I searched for a new job and new opportunities. Then I got an opportunity with an agency who just wanted to start to use Salesforce. It was difficult to accept the challenge because I was unfamiliar with Salesforce. So I did some online research and I decided to accept the challenge. It wasn't easy to learn Salesforce in 2014 because I just started to discover this technology, but it should have been. There was plenty of documentation online, but not like a trailhead platform like today. It was not easy for me and for my colleagues to improve our level quickly. That's why we launched the Casablanca Developer Group in 2015. And I remember in 2018, I was unable to attend Salesforce Basecamp Belgium and Dreamforce, and it was not easy for me to accept that. And in this period, I remember clearly that I saw a big gap in my region, in Africa, in North Africa, and I wanted to fill it. I noticed that we did not have a Salesforce Basecamp in Africa, so I wanted to bring a Salesforce Basecamp to my city, to my country. It was my desire to organize the Basecamp events in Morocco. However, these were handled only by Salesforce. Afterwards, I thought about organizing a conference like CenCal Dreamin and to involve the community. And in my entourage, there was no person who attended this kind of events before, Dreamin events. I had no idea how to start, to get started, or how to do it, but I knew I wanted to organize it. In 2019, I became the very first Salesforce MVP in Africa. And that time, I made my final decision. I must realize it at all costs. I then looked for people who I trusted to work together, and I built a team for 3 people, and we host the North Africa Dreaming. And today, I'm the Salesforce Casablanca Developer Group Leader and Lightning Champion, and also I'm Salesforce Mentor, and I have lots of Salesforce certifications. And if you want to follow me, you can find me online on Twitter. And now let's start our presentation. Here is an overview of what we will be learning during this session. First, I will give you the rundown on SOQL, what it is, why we use it, and where you can practice writing it. Once you understand the use cases of SOQL, we are going to move on and learn the basics of SOQL language. How to write simple queries, how to filter your queries, and how you organize the results of your queries. Then we'll move into writing advanced SOQL queries. You will be writing advanced SOQL. By the end of this session, we are going to learn two advanced SOQL techniques: cross object SOQL queries and grouping SOQL queries. And lastly, we will round it off with some fun exercises to practice what we will learn today. So now next. So let's start our presentation. So what is SOQL? SOQL, it's like a Google search for your Salesforce org. Using SOQL, you can programmatically search your org for any records or settings. For example, you might want to use SOQL to search our Salesforce org to see if we had Houssam as a contact. If he is in our org, our SOQL query will return a result. And similarly, we can use SOQL to search our org for all opportunities created today. And our SOQL queries will return as all possible results. So this is just a simple definition about what is SOQL queries. So SOQL, it's a language that gets records data from the Salesforce database. Let's break this down. The S in SOQL stands for Salesforce because it's a language made specially for Salesforce. If you have worked with other databases before, you might have come across a similar language called SQL. The O stands for object because objects are the most important part of your Salesforce org. The Q and the L stands for query language because SOQL is a language for asking questions. It's a programmatic language, which means there is a specific syntax or grammar to how to write SOQL. And if you are an administrator, you can say creating a SOQL queries is similar to creating a report. Okay. And when you create a report, you should answer some questions, two questions. The first one is, what fields do I want to display? And in my second question, I should answer, where are those fields located, right? The report builder is a great tool for answering business questions, but SOQL lets you act on your data directly. Writing SOQL queries isn't at all that hard, especially since you can write them using the same logic you use to build the report criteria. Today, we will show you what SOQL actually is. And if you are an administrator, normally all admins knows how to use the Salesforce report builder to search their Salesforce org for specific records. For example, these reports they would help if I need to find all accounts that were created last year, for example. This is the type of query that SOQL will also be useful for. And in fact, you should consider SOQL and Salesforce reporting to have very similar use cases. Both have a primary use case of finding Salesforce records. But each have their own advantages, right? Here is where they differ. First of all, SOQL runs quicker than Salesforce reports. That's because SOQL is like the pure version of Salesforce reporting. It doesn't have a lot of the overhead that Salesforce reporting has, such as drag and drop UI. If you have ever worked in a Salesforce org with a lot of records, you know how frustrating it can be to have your Salesforce reports timeout. These things happen far less often with SOQL. SOQL is also more powerful than Salesforce reports. That I mean is you always come across limitations in Salesforce reporting. For example, a Salesforce report can only return 2000 rows before you need to export it to a CSV. Also, Salesforce reports can't search the hidden objects I've talked about, such as those for assignment rule, sharing rules, and permissions. As you get deeper into the Salesforce world, you will need to work with these hidden objects more and more. And you will find that standard Salesforce reporting just doesn't cut it. And finally, SOQL, it's a programming language. Every query is written using code. While this may seem to be hard, it's actually the reason why SOQL is so powerful. So, why SOQL queries? Now let's talk about this. All right. Now, given the advantages of SOQL versus of SOQL reporting. So sometimes you need to look at cross selection of data quickly or see data from multiple objects at one, traverse relationship without creating a new report, export data to CSV, or simply you want to talk to code. If you are a developer or an administrator, you should know a minimum of you have a minimum of knowledge about Apex code and how to write a simple query. So where you can write SOQL queries. You can write SOQL queries in different places, for example, on Workbench or console developer, or for example, if you work with some extensions like Salesforce Inspector, you can also write your SOQL queries there. And you can also write your SOQL queries in some IDE like Visual Studio Code. In this slide, we are going to learn about the amazing tool called the Workbench Salesforce. It is basically a web-based tool designed for Salesforce administrators and developers, which allows them to interact with Salesforce organization or Force APIs to update, delete, insert, and export data. We can see a short demonstration today about Workbench, maybe. The second one is the developer console. It's an integrated development environment with a collection of tools, and you can use to create, debug, and test applications in your Salesforce org. It takes only a couple of clicks to open the developer console from Salesforce Classic or Lightning Experience. The developer console is an integrated development environment with a collection of tools. And you can use the SOQL editor in the developer console to execute SOQL queries on the data in your organization. And the results are displayed in a query results grid. In which you can open, create, update, and delete records. So now let's start to see how to write a simple SOQL queries. So it's easy. As I said, creating SOQL queries, it's similar to create a report. When you create a report, you should answer such as two questions: what fields do I want to display, and where are those fields are located? So you ask the same questions when you want to create a SOQL query. In a query, the answers of these questions are the fields and the object. This query contains SOQL keywords, select, and from, records fields also, for example, field 1, field 2, field 3, field X, etc. And an object name. Creating SOQL queries, as I said, it's like creating a report. And if I want, for example, to display the first name, my SOQL query will be select space first name from, and I can put the object name, for example, contact, contact. And if I want to add the second field, just I need to add the comma last name. And if I want to add another one, I should add my third field, birth date, comma, etc., etc. And from object, I can replace the object name with the contact. And we can add also others field like email, etc. We can write our queries in one line or in different lines. We will have the same results. For example, select ID from contact in two lines, or in the same line, select ID from contact, or can use the third example, for example. In this example, we write a query to display information about the account. For example, this is my report, and this is a workbench. So I have the same results, but here I write my SOQL queries, select ID, comma, name, comma, and history from account. And here I used my report to create and display data. Uh, for newbies people, if you don't know the name the exact name, for example, name or industry, how you can find the name? It's simple. Just go to field relationship, and you can find here the field name. For example, site, owner ID, name, etc., etc. So this is a second query, a second example for my opportunity object. Select ID, comma, stage name, comma, creation date, comma, account, comma, probability from opportunity. So I can show field with the type ID or a pick list or date or currency or percentage, etc., etc. So now let's see how to filter SOQL queries. If you want to filter your query, it's simple. You need only added where in your query. For example, in this example, I want to display all contacts with mailing city equal Casablanca. And uh, I should, or I must put this symbol because the simple code, because it's the type varchar is a text, but if it's a number, I can use here a number without simple quote. So we can have other example. For example, if I want to display all contacts with the mailing CG equal USA, I can use the same query, but I need to replace Casablanca by US, not USA, but for example, Sacramento or another city in California. The second example, it is with in a keyword. So in this example, I show all contacts with mailing city, Casablanca or Cleveland. So and if I want to add another city, for example, I can do it also. And for example, if I want to display all contacts who for example, live or their mailing city is Casablanca or Cleveland or Sacramento, you can do it. Uh, I need just added my new value is here, where mailing city in Casablanca, comma, simple quote, Cleveland, comma, simple quote, Sacramento, for example. The third one, it's not in Word. For example, if I want to display all contacts who the mailing city is not in Casablanca on San Ramo, I can do it also with my SOQL query. So just don't forget this keyword not in, because it's powerful. Um, if I want to display all emails that end with gmail.com, I just should use this sample percentage. For example, if I have an email with yahoo.com or a professional domain, I will don't display this result, because I want to display only emails, only contacts, first name, last name, with a Gmail. So don't forget the percentage. And this is another example. But you can see I use my percentage at the end. So for example, if I want to display all contact with the title manager of sales, manager of IT department, manager of something, so I should or I need to write my SOQL queries like this. So I will search all title who starts with manager word, as a SAD manager of sales, manager of IT department, for example. And if I want to show all contact with the president word, for example, in the beginning or in the middle or at the end, I need to add a percentage here, and I put here my word percentage. So I need percentage, word percentage. So I will look for this word at the beginning, the middle, or at the end. I can show the results. Different. It's like not in, but we can do it like this. If we want to display all contact with the billing country is different to US, we can do it also with this symbol. Less than, it's also powerful, and you need to know that. For example, if I want to display all contacts with annual revenue less than this value, for example, 1 million, we can do it with SOQL query. It's also with the greater than or equal. We can just need to add another symbol greater than or equal. For example, we can add it two conditions like reports, as I said. So I need only added. I should only added and word. And for example, this SOQL query show me first ID, the first name, last name, email from contact where mailing city equal San Ramo, for example, and the email it's different to null. For example, I want to display only contact with an email, for example. We can also work with a parentheses. If we have some conditions with lot of condition, it's like if else then. So in this example, this is my first condition. I show the ID from contact, and this first condition is annual revenue uh, greater than 1 million or rating equal hot. This is my first condition, and if I got this, it's true, or this, it's true, or both, it's true. And my second condition, it's billing country equal US and billing state different to California. So we have also a parentheses operator. And and if I have and here, so I need to return true here and true here. This is just another example with a lot of fields. And as I said, I should only put comma, first name, comma, last name, etc. And now this is amazing word order by. You can specify the order in which search results are returned from a SOQL query using the order by clause. So in this example, I show the account ID from account order by annual revenue desk. So I will show the higher annual revenue. And after that, I show the second one, third one, etc. And so with desk word, I show the maximum, and I go with the minimum, minimum, minimum. But if I use ask, it's like ascendance. We can display account ID with the minimum. The minimum one is the first, and the higher one, highest one at the last. Limits. Finally, we can organize our SOQL results by using the order by and limit clauses. For example, if I want to display a top 100 account shorted or order by annual revenue, don't forget you can do it with limits word, keyword. So now let's talk a little bit about date. For example, here we have an example and we have also some functions you can use it and you can try those function later. So in this example, we can show all accounts that have been created during the last 2 months. So my function it's last underscore n underscore days, and I put here my value. And you have other functions you can try it. For example, if I want to show only all account who was created yesterday, my SOQL queries will be right select ID from account where created date equal yesterday. And if I want to display only all accounts who are created today, so my query will be like this: select ID from account where created date equal today. Uh, you you can write some words and try it after in your org. So now let's talk about relationships. Before we talk about cross object queries, you need to understand how relationships work in Salesforce. So let's start with opportunity objects. An opportunity is related to the account object. Relationships in Salesforce are made when there is a lookup or master detail relationship field from one object to another. In this case, the opportunity object has a lookup field that points to the account object, and the field is called account ID because the connection field exists on the opportunity object. The account is the parent of the opportunity. Another way to look at it is that an account can have many opportunities related to it, but an opportunity can only be related to one account. Because the account is the parent and the opportunity is the child. We begin with a basic SOQL queries on the opportunity object. For example, if I want to display all opportunities, my SOQL query will be like this: select ID, comma amount, comma stage name from opportunity. But if I want to display also some information from account object, my query will be like this: select ID, comma account, comma stage name, comma account, comma point name. So the account is a relationship. So this is an example with a standard field. And the standard field called account ID. So I only put account and I remove ID and I put dot and I write some fields we can find in account object. In this example, name and industry. And the same if I have some condition, we can also do it with the where clause, where account, comma, industry equal energy. The same if I want to display a custom with a custom field, my query will be like this: select ID, comma amount, select sales plan. So my sales plan, it's my field. I need only to replace C by R. You can imagine R, it's like a relationship. And here I put this field we can find, for example, a goal field in this object, sales plan. And the same, you can put here your condition. We can also, if we have a child data and if you want to query child data for a standard object, we can also use this query. Select ID, comma name, and here I put my query, select ID, last name from contact with S from account. So I will show all accounts with the contact related. The same if you have a custom object. For grouping, also it's not scary as you think. And we can talk now about the second advanced technique, grouping SOQL results. And remember, this is the SOQL equivalent of creating a summary report using a standard Salesforce reporting, which would look like this. A summary report is useful if you want to group records together and get aggregated information on its group. So this is some example. You can find more. You have sum, so we can calculate the sum of my amount. The second one is min. So I will show the minimum value, max for maximum value, AVG for average, count. So I need to count how many records I have. So we are good on timing. Now just let's do it and quick practice exercises. We still have a few minutes. So please, you can write your answer in the chat. So let's make it an interactive exercises. I know we don't have enough time. So now let's talk about the practice exercise. So, for example, if I ask you if I want to find the name and the email address of every contact, and I ask you, please write me your SOQL query. The answer, you can write your answer, please, in the chat. So the query can be like this: select name, comma, email from contact. The second example, if I want to find the ID and the name of every account with over 100 employees. So please write your SOQL queries in the chat, and the results or my query will be like this. Select ID, comma, name from account where number of employees greater than, and I put my value here. The third example, if I want to find the name of every contact whose job title is developer or consultant, please write also your SOQL queries in the chat. And my result or my query can be like this. Select name from contact where title equal simple coach, because I have a varchar or text value, and I put or word title equal consultant. Another example, if I want to find the birthday of all contacts born in the year 2010, please write your SOQL queries in the chat, and the result can be like this. Select birth date from contact where birth date and I put greater than or equal my value 2010 1st January, and birthday less than or equal, and I put the last day of December. And now if I want to find the name of all contacts with the Salesforce developer job title who works for a company with over this value 70,000 in annual revenue. My request can be like this. You can write your SOQL queries in the chat. One, two, three, and my SOQL query can be like this. So I put where title equal Salesforce developer and I put my second condition here. And we still have another example. If I want to find the name of all contact with developer in their job title, I know we don't have enough time, but the result is the query can be select name from contact where title like percentage developer percentage. So thank you for your attention. I appreciate that you are here today. I hope I helped admins to understand how to write their SOQL queries. And please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me here or on LinkedIn or on Twitter. Thank you, everyone.